new from Bionicle. The Piraka Vezok is on a rampage, and the Toa Kongu has just fallen to the vicious warlord. For a Piraka takes no prisoners. And so, into the night, he lets out a defiant bellow. For who can stop him now? With a crack, a portal opens before Vezok, and out of the rift in space flies a new toe of life. Enraged, Vezok unleashes his impact vision, but our hero dodges the fiery beams. Now desperate, Vezok fires his harpoon, but the mask of life avoids the potentially fatal projectile. And finally, the Toa strikes down the former Dark Hunter. With the monster vanquished, the Toa pays respect to his fallen comrade. With his mission complete, the mask once again voyages through the cosmic space to dimensions beyond.
This is a Bionicle Toa mask, also known as the Konohi Ignika. But what does that mean? In fact, what was that intro? What's a Piraka or a Dark Hunter? What are Toa and why are they significant? And at the end of the day, aren't you just talking about adjustable plastic action figures? Well, yes, but also no. And if you'll indulge me some of your time, I'll do my very best to show you why this little assortment of plastics and parts isn't just a visually entertaining bit, but can also be used as a tool that can make you a better storyteller and thinker. So, at long last, without any further ado, let's begin. This is polypropylene, a tough, flexible plastic used for most Bionicle weapons and minifigure parts. This is polyoxymethylamine and polyamide, or nylon. It is a very strong plastic that holds up against high impact, lending itself to connectors and gears. Separately, these bits of molded plastic don't mean much of anything, but when combined through their unique shapes and by leveraging the imagination of the creator, a near infinite series of combinations are unlocked. And this small assortment of plastic may very well be a perfect microcosm of Bionicle's buildcraft, world, and continued appeal. So, first up, let's talk about the world. To surmise the initial mission of Bionicle, I would use the phrase, "The body is sick with a terminal disease and must be healed." And this task is bestowed upon Toa. Now, there are several translations of the word Toa, depending on what language you're using, but since much of early Bionicle carries over many similarities to Polynesian culture, in that language, the word would mean valiant warrior, which works well enough to describe Toa since they are primarily the foot soldiers of the Matoran universe, each with their own look and power setup. For example, the initial Toa team had 6 members, and their powers were fire, water, air, earth, rock, and ice. Don't mind the similarities, it's all cool. In this universe, a Toa's power comes fairly middle of the road compared to other characters, because in just one second, we will talk about some very, powerful figures. With a Toa's duty to be saving the decaying universe around them, teams of Toa embark on quests to uncover the galactic mysteries, even a little bit of self-discovery, as certain Toa teams have had their minds wiped by outside forces. This also means that Toa don't just fight against universal or environmental threats, but they also struggle and work with powerful forces that have been pulling the strings of the Matoran universe for over 100,000 years. Now, there are 3 factions to talk about, so let's start first with the big one.
The Order of Mata Nui was first formed by Toa Helrix at roughly the same time as both the founding of Metru Nui and the formation of the Brotherhood of Makuta. It was formed as a secret society dedicated to serving the will of the Great Sprit Mata Nui. It was one of the most powerful organizations in the Mataran universe, and the only groups that were able to rival it were the Brotherhood of Makuta and the Dark Hunters. Members were not permitted to reveal the Order's secrets except in the direst of circumstances. Doing otherwise resulted in death. Their base of operations was located on the island of Daxia, which was built by the overseers of Artaka, Karzani, and its first members. The Order worked in utmost secrecy, leaving public acts of Mata Nui's will to his chosen warriors, the Toa. It was one of the most powerful organizations in the Mataran universe. Sometime around 80,000 years before the Great Cataclysm, the Order tampered with Ehlek species in an attempt to engineer a race to combat the Brotherhood of Makuta. This was done in a way so that the species was not aware of who did the tampering. 60,000 years before the Great Cataclysm, the Order disguised and scattered a number of Mataran throughout the Mataran universe. The Order then erased the memories of every Mataran in the universe to cover up the act. Historical records of this time have also been erased, which can be presumed to be the work of the Order. This was known as the Great Time Slip. After the Brotherhood of Makuta invaded the land of Artaka, the Order accepted the ruler's request to eliminate all knowledge of the land's location. In addition to altering and destroying maps, they took everyone who knew of its location, including Order members, and made them disappear. When Mata Nui set the stars to present false prophecies concerning the identities of the future Toa of Metru Nui, the Order planted evidence that supported these prophecies, such as Toa discs. This deception fooled Pterodax and allowed the correct Mataran to become the Toa Metru. Ultimately, the Order acted how they did, so that if Mata Nui were to die, their records and collective knowledge would serve as a final record of the universe and its people. The history of the Brotherhood begins roughly 100,000 years ago with the creation of the Makuta species. The Makuta were beings of shadow that were created on one of the southern islands. There, the Makuta pool was located, where Mata Nui molded its liquid into the Makuta's living bodies. From that day forth, the Makuta species formed the Brotherhood of Makuta, an organization commissioned to alter biomechanical Rahi to populate the Mataran universe. This organization was led by Makuta Miserix and his lieutenant Makuta Pterodax, and was protected by guardians of Exo-Toa, Rakshi and Rahi. Despite their mission, the Brotherhood world was not separate from politics. Roughly 87,000 years ago, the Brotherhood forged an alliance with the League of Six Kingdoms to provide war Rahi for their warlords, the Baraki. However, the Brotherhood's opinion of the League was not favorable. This began when the League conquered the known universe. Soon after, they revealed to the Makuta they planned to divide the universe into sixths for each Baraki to rule at a Baraki tower. Although the Makuta did not like this strategy, the League forced the Brotherhood to continue with their alliance, claiming they could invade the Makuta's home base of Destral. This alliance held for 7,000 years, when the Brotherhood discovered through a spy in the Baraki that the League planned to overthrow Mata Nui. This prompted not only a muster of all armies the Makuta possessed, but prompted them to enlist outside aid from Toa, which was an unlikely alliance since the Brotherhood believed that Toa was substantially less powerful and significant than they were. Under the leadership of Makuta Teridax, this army went to the Baraki fortresses and captured the warlords. The treacherous ones were not executed by Exotoa as planned, but instead imprisoned in depths of the pit. This confused Teridax, who then began to consider the possibility that if the League could have rebelled, the Brotherhood could surely do the same. Later, either by coercion or reputation, they grew in power, becoming personal bodyguards of Mata Nui and protectors of the Mataran and Metru Nui. This ascension led to a moment called the Great Cataclysm, where Makuta Teridax battled Mata Nui, and their war placed the symbolic head of the universe in a deep slumber. To conclude the plan, Teridax sent 7 of the Brotherhood's high-ranking Makuta to capture the universe core and send a shock through the universe that would reawaken Mata Nui. However, none of Teridax's brothers knew that the energy storms would incinerate everything in the region of Kada Nui, including the Makuta. By their deaths, Teridax was able to ensure that he stood alone as ruler of the universe. Teridax then destroyed Destral and killed all the remaining Makuta except Miserix. The Dark Hunters were not exactly good or evil, but rather amoral, simply taking any job that paid well enough. Dark Hunters were generally at least as powerful as Toe, and almost every hunter had a story of when they killed one on a mission. The Dark Hunters were led by a mysterious figure only known as the Shadowed One. Shortly after the Great Cataclysm, another war was declared against the Brotherhood of Makuta after the Shadowed One discovered that Teridax had killed 2 hunters, Nidiki and Kreka. The war lasted for over 1,000 years and prompted the Dark Hunters to fight using guerrilla tactics compared to the larger armies used by the Brotherhood. Ultimately, the Hunters never sought to run the grand politics of the universe and instead desired to gain money and resources that maintained their operations.
So, we've gone over the 3 primary factions. Now let's talk about some of the fun characters within those factions. The first one I want to talk about is obviously Vezok, featured in the introduction, and a former Dark Hunter, the most extreme of the Paraka, which is something to think about. He also has a twin named Vezon, who was formed by splitting his body and mind in half, and Vezon is quite mad. Second character I want to talk about is Kongu, a Toa who loves weapons, a weapon designer, and in fact loved weapons so much that when the Toa voyaged underwater to Mari Nui and everyone was grabbing their weapons, whether it be swords or blasters or whatnot, Kongu looked at the blasters, grabbed 2 of them, and when questioned about it, he looked and went, "Got 2 hands." Hydroxon, the guardian of Mari Nui, master of all weapons. He also has a really cute dog. And Rudaka, a Dark Hunter and possible agent of the Order of Makuta and partner of Makuta Teridax. I would regard Rudaka as a predecessor to Savathun. If you play Destiny, you will know Savathun quite well. And Rudaka is special because...
Is it to be so simple, Sidoran? I mean, shouldn't we be certain? Be reasonable, Vakama. My name. I know a great deal about you.
Moving on. When Bionicle was first introduced, there was this omnipresent understanding that everything was a rush against time to save the great spirit of Mata Nui. Little did my 10-year-old mind understand, everything in this universe was far simpler yet far more grand than I could have imagined. The Great Spirit wasn't just a force, but a literal being, a continentally sized machine whose reawakening removed and rewrote the landscape itself. And my eyes grew wide as I saw the face emerge from the island of our narrative's origin. The possibilities of what this world could be opened up before me. Bionicle wasn't just a fixed storyline about heroes and villains, though they are included. This universe and its power setup could be anything anyone imagined. And not only is that a fantastic fan fantasy, it is a canonized concept that is explored in the core narrative. In 2006, a new island was introduced to the Bionicle universe. Gone was the gleaming city of Metru Nui and the vistas of Mata Nui, and now we were introduced to the grime and thievery of the Paraka. They weren't politicians like Pterodax, or grand warlords like the Baraki, who we would meet later. Instead, these 6 psychopaths desired one simple thing: money. Opposing these thieving murderers were 2 titans, Axon and Brutaka, but what I want to focus on is the Mask Brutaka War, the Kanohi Almach, also known as the Mask of Dimensional Gates. Now, there are dozens of variations of masks and Kanohi powers. They range from simple elements like fire, water, and stone. More interesting use cases come in form of sonics, gravity, shadow, and dimensional gates. With the Kanohi Almach, the current wearer, Brutaka, and subsequently anyone Brutaka wants, can travel into any realm of reality by opening a portal and stepping through. With the introduction of the Kanohi Almach, our understanding of what Bionicle can look like and play out completely changes. One example of this idea playing out in the core narrative is the discovery of another dimension, where the race of Makuta have completely purged their inner darkness, and now they are Makuta of light. One of these Makuta crosses back into the core dimension and takes up the goal of stopping Makuta Pterodax. Though this iteration of Pterodax is not a primary character, his existence and involvement in the core narrative informs how the world dynamics can play together. The light battling the dark, old factions whose existence predates written history, and an infinite sandbox of realities and powers to play with? Now that sounds like a universe whose potential is just being tapped. In prior iterations of this video, I attempted to be analytical and give out various world comparisons between different science fiction franchises and how their power fantasies and their narratives all stack up and play together. But it all came off too cold for me, because at the end of the day, I'm a fan. I've grown attached to these characters, and I've grown with these stories that I've known since I was 10 years old. And the idea of what these stories and characters could be in the hands of anybody leaves me feeling incredibly optimistic. Because honestly, it's a good time to be a Bionicle fan. This world has maintained a strong fan base, and now games are being made along with excellent content produced by those like Duckbrick and Essinger, along with upcoming games made by Team Kanohi and even Essinger. So go, watch all the memes, the 9-hour Duckbrick history of the Bionicle universe. Watch the Essinger videos, listen to the Cryo Shell songs, watch the movies, and once you've consumed all the media and content there is, well, then you're just getting started. Because now, feel free to make any story you can conceive. Want to explore the world of a Rahi herder acquiring the Almach and chasing down a dark hunter who slaughtered his entire village? Go for it. Maybe be inspired by film noir and write a story about a Matoran exploring the disappearances of fellow coworkers in Metru Nui. the floor is yours. Want to talk about an ongoing war between Rakshi and Toa and Exo-Toa? The door is wide open for you. To me, Bionicle is a tree of forever branching stories, and you can be adding your own spice and perspective piece by piece. Sure, it was officially canceled too early. We never got the conclusion to the story that we had hoped for or that we were initially promised, but look at what we can make, either by ourselves or together. That kind of collaboration of all the people and ideas and pieces coming together, that is the legacy of the Bionicle.